On the previous episode, I gave you an overview of my land and how I prepared it for planting. The next step was to build a fence. I was looking for the absolute cheapest way to put up a fence to keep the deer out of my yard. Without a fence, the deer would eat everything and leave nothing for me. I started by buying 45 2-inch pencil post fence posts that are 7 feet long. I identified my property line and started pounding posts in with a sledgehammer, standing on top of a ladder. This method worked, but it's not the safe.
Okay, so already he's building a fence on a budget, which I give him credit for that. He's definitely working within his budget and he is being very budget friendly. Now the tin can on top of the post, as far as so that he can hit that with a hammer, at first I was kind of like, huh? But then I was kind of like, okay, you know, it's clever. It's definitely a clever idea. I would have never thought of it.
I was super lucky to get 2 rolls of wire fencing from my neighbor, which saved me around $400 to $500. A similar but cheaper alternative to the galvanized fencing is metal farm fencing, which isn't as durable, but will.
So this particular individual, he's definitely trying, definitely DIY, 100%. The wire is taller than the posts. The posts are shorter. There's no brace whatsoever, and I think one of my biggest concerns right now is as soon as he gets that wire up there, if something hits the wire, you know, God forbid, late at night, a deer doesn't see the fence, runs into the fence. I'm kind of worried that it's actually going to either snap off a post because they're so small, or it's just going to completely kind of like cripple everything. Not saying that it's going to completely fall down, but I am wondering if there's going to be a fail point.
I propped up the fence on the ground with a log, then used an angle grinder to cut the fence. I should note here, you can't cut this fence with tin snips. Well, not really. I tried, it took me 15 minutes to cut.
There's always a right tool for the job. 100%. There's always a right tool for the job every time, no matter what that job is. Cutting this particular kind of fence, I would either be using a Nip-X pliers or Nippets. Those are an awesome tool. Or one of our favorites, one of my favorites, is Klein 9s. They're intended for electricians, but we use them all day, every day in the fencing industry. Wonderful, wonderful tool.
With the fence being cut, I was able to throw it up against the poles and use zip ties to secure the fence. After the fence was secured with zip ties, I went back with hose clamps around both to keep them held together tight. After I ran out of hose clamps, I secured the last few with some steel wire. If you want to pick some up, both will be linked down below. I rolled out.
Okay. I have a problem. I have a really small problem. It's getting kind of big and it's growing bigger. So I'm watching him as he's attaching the wire to the post, and I can see the post flex. So I'm knowing that that post is moving in the ground. I appreciate the fact that this gentleman is doing this on a budget, but also at the same time, what's the budget if you're just going to completely lax all the way through it? Because you don't want to throw your money away. I'm wondering if should have just not gone with the wood posts, not gone with the sledgehammer method whatsoever, and gone with a taller T-post, and then gone with a T-post pounder. You get it a lot deeper. You don't have to worry about the ground being wet like he was talking about. You don't want the ground wet, especially. Think of putting a stick in a bucket full of mud. What can you do? You can put it in there and you can move it all the way around. Your fence post is going to do the exact same thing in the ground. If you are putting it in nothing but saturated dirt soil, it's not going to be solid. He's definitely trying, 100%. There's a lot of try right here.
After the fence was up, I cut a hole in the fence in the front yard so I could still get my mail. This footage here of me cutting my fence is my first time using an angle grinder. I didn't have a face shield, so I improvised with my biking goggles, a medical mask, and toque to protect myself against the sparks. After it was cut free, I used some pliers to bend any of these sharp bits back towards the post. Next on my journey of building a food forest in my yard is the construction of the gates and installing deer fencing on top of the fence. Yeah, that's right, the deer can jump over this 7-foot metal fence. Hope you enjoyed this.
One of the things about having a gate opening is you want to take a lot of the liability out of that. He just cut the opening in the wire. He has the fingers of the wire that are just out there, and if you walk through it, you're likely to snag your clothing, you're likely to snag yourself and cut yourself. That's not the main reason that we terminate the wire back around the post. That is not the main reason. But that is another reason, just so that way everything looks cleaner and everything is 100% finished. The main reason is because if you don't do that, that wire is going to slip through that staple. It's going to completely come loose, and eventually that wire is going to be nothing but a big droop over the ground. So always got to make sure and tie that off and terminate it.
This video, and maybe you got a good laugh of me trying to figure out how to build a fence. Subscribe if you want to follow my journey, and have a great day.
I'm definitely not laughing at him. He gave it a solid A for try. He was right half the time. I will give him that. But as far as the wood posts, I think I would swap back to a T-post. That way you can still get that flexibility. I would have splurged just a little bit more, and I would have actually maybe purchased a T-post pounder, you know, from a farm and ranch store, and drove them in there with one of those. Give them an A for effort, and keep on trying. I'm glad you had a fun time watching me watch. I hope you did at least, and I hope you learned something. Dan with SWI, and you have a good dang day.